Jake, I wanted to ask you about this data source, which is and why you're at Advertising Week, and what the offering is and where it comes from.
Sure. So Emodo is a subsidiary of Ericsson, which is the international telecommunications infrastructure provider. And what we do is we take the data that runs through carrier pipes, and our job is to enable smarter, more accurate, better spent marketing dollars using that carrier data as a filtering mechanism to filter out inaccuracies and waste and fraud in the digital ecosystem.
For folks at home who aren't don't know that much about the wireless infrastructure, explain kind of in very general terms how that works.
Sure. So first of all, the infrastructure itself. So if you're driving down the freeway and you see, a huge fake tree, we've all seen these fake trees. The odds are that infrastructure itself was built and installed by Ericsson. Ericsson carries about 80% of traffic in the U.S. and about 40 to 50% globally. So it's the actual physical infrastructure that enables our cell phones to work. And the data running through the pipes is basically we use as a truth set to verify the accuracy of data around the ecosystem. There's a lot of talk in the ad ecosystem today about transparency and quality, and that is usually discussed in the context of brand safety and fraudulent devices and viewability and whitelists and blacklists. But there's an enormous issue of fraud and waste in the form of data that people don't really realize and don't really focus on. And that's really where our focus is. So much data in the ecosystem, probably half or more of every type of data that we have been able to measure is totally inaccurate. And that's true not just for targeting, but it's also true for the bidding decisions that we're making based on metadata in bid requests. And it's also true of attribution reporting, ad effectiveness reports that we're getting, and whether we can even trust the data that was used to make those determinations in that measurement. So that's our mission, is to clean this stuff up and minimize waste and improve quality and reliability from a data perspective across everything that marketers do.
Could you just explain a little bit more about how you would deal with a particular campaign or a particular message, and just sort of walk us through how that sort of identity of fraud happens?
Sure. So really a key part of our secret sauce is our pre-bid algorithm, which is what we use in our PMP inventory in a programmatic universe. What that pre-bid algorithm does is it uses years of deterministic matching between the carrier data and programmatic inventory, and looking and seeing historically which data points have ended up being accurate and which have not been accurate. And then based on that, we use AI to basically accurately predict the likelihood that any given bid request in real time can be trusted. The metadata in that bid request that's driving the bidder to make a decision about whether to bid, how much to bid, etc. So we're running that pre-bid algorithm in real time and using it to filter out inventory that is highly likely to be a waste of money. And so we're enabling our clients to only buy the inventory that is passed through our filter and deemed high quality, and therefore whatever bidding decision you're making on that inventory, you can trust that you're getting what you paid for because it's passed through this pre-bid algorithm.
And tell us about your customer base and your business proposition.
So our core focus in the early days of Emodo has been using the location data that comes from the carrier network. And so as a result of that, our focus in the market is folks with a physical retail environment that they are looking to market. So it could be anything from QSR, casual restaurants, to auto, to retail, to travel, like hotels and other parts of the travel space.
So are you dealing with agencies or brands? What's the scope of the customer base?
Sure. We work with both. It is primarily agencies. We do have direct relationships as well. And we work also very closely with the platforms to enable folks to access our filtering capability wherever they already buy media. So we work with Google and the Trade Desk and Media Math and the other major platforms that folks use. Our goal is to not require you to change the way you buy, but simply to be able to do what you already do, but do it with a much higher level of trust.
Great, and just tell us briefly then about the Institute and what your goals are and what that's about.
Sure. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, I run the Emodo Institute. It's a thought leadership organization. Our goal is to provide pure thought leadership around data quality issues, both that exist today and that could potentially be coming in the future. And so one of the core areas that we focus on is 5G. It's an area that's getting a lot of buzz today, but we feel that there's not really a lot of true understanding of what will 5G actually be, what's required for folks to be able to leverage 5G and take advantage of it, and for 5G to hit its full potential. So in addition to speaking today about 5G, we actually launched a podcast called Five, F-I-V-E, the 5G podcast for marketers. It's available anywhere that you would listen to podcasts. And it is, it is the definitive source for the real honest truth about what 5G is and how it's going to impact marketers. It's gotten great feedback. We've launched 7 episodes so far. The most recent episode was about programmatic and the impact that 5G will have on the programmatic ecosystem. We just launched that the other day. And that we're speaking today, this afternoon, we're going to be doing a live recording of an episode. So episode 8 of our podcast is actually our session this afternoon here at Advertising Week.
And finally, what will the impact be on programmatic?
Well, one of the things one of the key misunderstandings that we clear up with clients about the impact of 5G on programmatic is that it's not a magic solution. You don't install a 5G antenna and bam, everything's super fast and all problems are solved. The thing you have to think about with 5G is it solves the latency and the speed issues from the device to the cell tower. Anything past the cell tower, 5G doesn't help. So, this incredibly convoluted ecosystem that we've created around tags and redirects and waterfalls and multi-auction bidding processes, header bidding, these kind of things that take up so much time and have created latency in the way that ads are served. 5G is not going to fix that. If anything, it's going to exacerbate the problem because consumers are going to start to have much higher expectations for speed than they have today, and they're just not going to put up with it. So, the number one takeaway, I think, from a programmatic perspective is we all, I think, need to not be comfortable in the way that we do things today. If we're using products that are tag-based, if we are taking part in the convoluted programmatic ecosystem, we have to wonder if these things can survive in this kind of form. And the companies we work with, do they really understand the ramifications of how different 5G will be and how different their infrastructure will need to look? Are they evolving from a deterministic way of thinking to an AI way of thinking so that they can respond fast enough to the way that devices will expect to get ads in the future? So that's really the number one suggestion, is to question your assumptions and take a step back and review whether the way that we do things today is really conducive to how things are going to have to run in 2-3 years.